As Donald Trump is quite literally demolishing the White House on Monday. I mean, look at it. He's also, by the way, during a government shutdown, nonetheless, he's demolishing America's foreign policy. He just goes out there and makes these ridiculous and dangerous pronouncements that we're well beyond. What if Biden did, or what if Obama or George W. Bush? It's well beyond that. I mean, in front of the Prime Minister of Australia, for example, on Monday, Donald Trump is asked a question about Hamas saying it's not going to disarm, Netanyahu not supporting a two-state solution, continuing strikes in southern Gaza, the fact that Israel and Hamas did not sign the underlying ceasefire agreement, that Donald Trump's never addressed a two-state solution. What's going on? And Trump literally goes, we made a deal with Hamas and they're going to be good. They're going to behave. They're going to be nice. Hamas? Here, play this clip.
You just alluded to the violence in the Middle East. What steps is the administration taking to maintain the ceasefire?
Well, a lot of steps, and right now it's in the hands of others. You know, we have 59 countries that agreed to the deal. We have a peace in the Middle East for the first time ever. We made a deal with Hamas that, you know, they're going to be very good, they're going to behave, they're going to be nice, and if they're not, we're going to go and we're going to eradicate them if we have to.
They're going to be nice, they're going to behave. You know, Hamas was not a signatory to the deal, nor was Israel an underlying signatory. And it was a ceasefire. And since then, there's been, dozens of deaths in Palestine. Israel says Hamas violated the ceasefire. Hamas says Israel's violated the ceasefire. We'll talk about that. I want to talk about all as well, though. Donald Trump attacking the president of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, and saying that he's actually a drug dealer, and that, because the president of Colombia pointed out that Donald Trump's been killing innocent Colombian fishermen. Now Donald Trump says he's going to put tariffs on Colombia and sanction them, and now Colombia is a narco state. I mean, just watch what Donald Trump said on Air Force One on Sunday night. Here, play this clip.
Against drugs. And in fact, even when they had better presidents than they have right now, that's how they're making a lot of money, drugs. I used to complain about it when they had a very nice president, but he wasn't doing it. It was all talk. They are a drug manufacturing machine, Colombia, and we're not going to be part of it. So we're going to drop all money that we're giving to them. It has nothing to do with them stopping drug production. And you look at the fields are loaded up with drugs, and they refine the drugs, and they make tremendous amounts of cocaine.
I'm not sure if he's just watching movies from the 1980s about Scarface, or if he knows Gustavo Petro, if he knows that Petro's been a reliable ally to the United States in actually combating a lot of the historical issues that took place in Colombia. But Trump was upset that Petro simply called out that Trump was potentially committing war crimes in the Caribbean by shooting fishing boats and murdering individuals who were not associated with the drug trade. And perhaps even if they were associated with it without any type of trials at all, that could be construed as a war. I believe it's a war crime. So you have that. Then you have Donald Trump. We know the reporting when Zelensky was not in front of the cameras, Donald Trump was yelling and screaming at Zelensky, give up Donbass, give up all of your land. Putin's going to win. Putin's economy is great. You're going to lose, and just started screaming and cursing at Zelensky. The Financial Times and others reported that. Trump was asked about it. And he was asked, did you tell Zelensky he needed to cede all of the Donbass region to Russia? Trump lies here, but then also basically says, I want Ukraine to give up all the land that Russia has taken to date. Here, play this clip.
Yeah, Friday, you said you had a cordial meeting with President Zelensky. During that meeting, did you tell him he needed to cede all of the Donbass region to Russia?
No, we never discussed it. We think that what they should do is just stop at the lines where they are, the battle lines. You have a battle line right now. The rest is very tough to negotiate. If you're going to say, you take this, we take that, there's so many different permutations. So what I say is they should stop right now at the battle lines. Go home, stop killing people, and be done.
What do you think should happen with the Donbass region then?
Let it be cut the way it is. It's cut up right now. I think 78% of the land is already taken by Russia. You leave it the way it is right now. They can.
And apparently Donald Trump was showing Zelensky maps that were given to him by Putin, Russian maps, and saying, this is what's Russia, this is yours. You have to listen to what me and Putin are telling you, or words to that effect. And then you go to India, where Donald Trump is making up conversations that he had with Prime Minister Modi. And he says that Modi told him that India was not going to buy any more oil from Russia. And Modi's like, I haven't talked to him. Just making up fake conversations that aren't taking place. Here's when Donald Trump said it, and Modi confirmed in Modi's person. We never discussed anything like this. I haven't even spoken to him. Here, play this clip.
We have a great relationship. No, we were not happy with him buying oil from Russia, because that lets Russia continue on with this ridiculous war where they've lost 1.5 million people. By the way, Russia's lost 1.5 million people, soldiers mostly. This is a war that should have never started, but it's a war that Russia should have won in the first week, and they're going into the 4th year. And I want to see it stop. So I was not happy that India was buying oil. And he assured me today that they will not be buying oil from Russia. That's a big stop. And he's assured me there will be no oil purchased from Russia. I don't know, maybe that's a breaking story. Can I say that? Would you say? There will be no oil. He's not buying his oil from Russia. It started. You can't do it immediately. It's a little bit of a process, but the process is going to be over with soon.
So now I want to bring in former Department of Defense spokesperson Sabrina Singh. Sabrina, it's great to see you again, and you know how delicate, more than anyone, international diplomacy is handled. Now, Donald Trump's out there making up fake conversations and fake breaking news. By the way, our corporate media reports on that stuff a lot like that's actually what happened. And then we find out that it's a lie and it causes great damage internationally and diplomatically. So why don't we start with that piece, with India? And I want to touch upon everything, but you heard what Trump said. He made up a fake conversation with Modi on a very serious issue that was just a fabricated, just no truth to it at all.
I mean, it's definitely concerning, right? When you have the president of the United States talking about conversations that haven't happened or getting ahead of conversations that are maybe going to happen with the government to pressure them, let's say India, from not relying on Russian oil, to all of a sudden, announcing that to the press in a very public way. It could be a tactic that he's using, but look, I mean, it's clearly an exaggeration of a conversation. And I think even the foreign minister for India had to say, not only did we not have any conversations, but this isn't something that was discussed. So, when it comes to Donald Trump and certainly speaking out about conversations that he had or exaggerating them, I think for other leaders around the world, that is sort of a new norm. People are used to it. But I think it's more concerning, of course, when it comes to, leaders like Vladimir Putin being able to pressure Trump and manipulate Trump, and basically having Trump use his own talking points when it comes to talking with the Ukrainian leader, who's really fighting for the sovereignty of his own country. So it kind of all melds together of what we should all be concerned about when it comes to conversations that did or did not happen with this administration.
Turning to the Caribbean, a 4-star admiral, Admiral Halsey, who well-respected admiral, he was first year into a 3-year tenure of the Southern Command. How rare is it for someone in that position on year 1 of the tenure to just kind of suddenly resign? And then we're talking about someone like United States Navy Admiral Alvin Halsey, who we know is not someone who just makes precipitous decisions on a whim while you're having these strikes taking place in the Caribbean that many people are saying are war crimes that are taking place and that are not being provided the transparency about what the heck is even going on.
I can't emphasize enough how rare it is for someone to get to a position like Admiral Halsey did, to that 4-star position, to be in command of a combatant command, and especially with U.S. Southern Command, a command that is getting a lot of attention right now by this administration, to step down nearly a year into your term. I mean, that's really unheard of. And that's, I think, really indicates that he disagreed, most likely with the administration's policy and probably the legality of how this administration is conducting strikes off the coast of Venezuela and Colombia. I mean, we've seen, I think it was like another boat strike just happened. It was the 6th one. the American public has no information on who these strikes are killing and has no information on the mission or how long it's going to go on for. And so for someone like this admiral to step down, who has served over 20, 30 years in uniform at the height of his career in a 4-star position, it's deeply troubling. It sets, I think, a really horrible precedent for others that now have to not only just fill the gap of him leaving, but of other people that are leaving this administration and the military because they feel that this military has become too politicized. And frankly, you have a secretary of quote war that's really willing to push the lines of what's legal and what's not. And this administration is willing to do that very, very frequently.
So turning to Ukraine, President Zelensky arrived at the White House, which is now being torn down in the East Wing, at least today, last week. The Ukrainian delegation's there, and they learned for the first time that Trump is going to be speaking with Putin, which to me was a terrible sign because the moment he speaks with Putin, he then launders those talking points into the meeting. And I said, he had that call with Putin. He's going to talk about, and Putin, rambles for hours and hours. I go, he's going to talk about the maps and how the land belongs to Russia. He's going to use all the propaganda points. And it was pretty bad in front of the press. But what we're hearing is behind closed doors, it made what happened in February look tame, that Trump was cursing and screaming. You need to just accept this. You're losing. Donbass belongs to Putin, et cetera, et cetera. And Zelensky's like, I'm not doing that, and started yelling back. And there was this big altercation. Zelensky then had to reach out to the European allies on like an emergency basis afterwards. Trump, after saying he was going to provide long-range missiles, said, we're not doing that. We're not doing sanctions against Russia. And so I just don't get why everybody keeps, when he says 2 weeks, we're going to do it, like he's tormenting Ukraine. And to me, it's obvious what's going on, at least in my view. But what did you make of that interaction?
Well, I think it was good that you didn't have another public blowout, spat in the Oval Office. But I mean, clearly concerning that, Vladimir Putin calls Donald Trump before this meeting with Zelensky and basically not only pressures him to not give Ukraine those Tomahawk missiles, but is such a good master manipulator that Donald Trump is parroting Russian talking points and basically saying that Russia should be able to keep the Donbass and the line should hold as is. And the reality is that Ukraine is fighting for its life. And this is a sovereign country that was invaded by its neighbor. And for Donald Trump to basically say, it's done and you should just be happy with the deal that you have right now, that's not a deal. We're talking about the lives of Ukrainians that live in these occupied, territories that Russia controls. And so it's not only that, it's just that Trump is willing to be played by Putin. You saw it with that Alaska summit. I mean, Putin is willing to run down the clock and is going to keep doing it. Now they're going to have another summit in Hungary. I mean, what is coming from these summits? From the Alaska summit, there was no ceasefire put into place and there was no, hard, tough consequences put on Russia. In fact, after that Alaska summit, we saw the aerial attacks when it came to drones and ballistic missiles increase from Russia. And it felt like every week we were talking about how much larger and more complex they were getting. So it's concerning that yet again, this administration, and I think particularly Donald Trump, cannot see that Putin is not willing and does not want to make peace with Ukraine.
And it seems also that Putin is picking symbolic locations to try to humiliate Donald Trump in Europe. I mean, picking Alaska, which, by the way, there are people in Russia who said we should get Alaska back, but Putin stepping foot in territorial USA, and then picking Budapest as a location. That's where Ukraine was promised that if it disarmed its nuclear weapons, that it would be able to maintain, its sovereignty. And so for Ukraine, it's a particularly delicate area, the deals and what's made in Budapest. And it just seems, even when you had Sergei Lavrov show up in Alaska with the USSR shirt, I mean, it seems that in Putin's view, there was the Reagan moment, tear down that wall, Mr. Gorbachev, which Putin sees as a humiliation ritual for what Russia's empire and their USSR imperial ambitions. And now they're just going spot by spot for their history books. Like they're writing the humiliation of the U.S. history books before our very eyes. And Trump's too stupid to realize. I mean, that's one of the things that I'm seeing.
Yeah, no, I think you laid it out so well, and I think it can't be lost on us that Putin is a former KGB officer. I mean, this is someone that is incredibly smart, very intellectual, understands how to manipulate. And Donald Trump is willingly, I mean, quite literally also rolling out the red carpet for this man. And so, when you think about it, when you think about what is this administration going to stand for, it's really concerning when it comes to Ukraine, what Trump is willing to hear and how he is just willing to sort of cater to what Putin wants. And it's clear that he, I think kind of idolizes some of Putin's tendencies. And, he always talks about how much he respects Putin. But again, Zelensky is fighting for his country, for their freedom, for the Ukrainians. And he has really held the lines. I mean, his military has done an incredible job of pushing Russia back, but also holding the lines as they are. We got to give them the leg up. So when they do want to come to the negotiating table, they are in the best position possible to do so.
And then you see who Trump says is fighting for their lives that we need to save. He's like, Argentina. It's like, so during the government shutdown, $40 billion goes to Argentina. First, it was 20 billion, then it's 40 billion. And Trump was asked, why are we doing that? Then I think he had some demeaning response to, the reporter who asked, like, you don't know what you're talking about, lady. This is what we're doing over here. And it's like, didn't y'all say that Javier Milei was like this brilliant person and they were telling us that it was great and this guy was crushing it and now he's bankrupting the country and we have to bail out Argentina while there's a government shutdown. It's just when you see his behavior to, Petro, how he's treating Milei and Bukele, it's this worldview that's all over the place, erratic. And, what do you make of the Argentina bailout?
I think it really speaks to, I just think, where Trump is when it comes to the United States position on the world stage. I mean, yes, there was a ceasefire secured when it came to what's happening in Gaza with Israel. But I think so much of the world stage and so many leaders around the world and people around the world always look to the United States for guidance and look for leadership. And you're seeing just such a void that's going to be filled by others when it comes to this administration. I mean, Trump is, of course, all over the place, but it's not only that, like on the world stage, it's domestic, it's here at home. I mean, we're 20 plus days into a shutdown, no end in sight. People are hurting. You have, employees at the airport, FAA air traffic controllers going without pay. Our men and women in uniform are deployed to cities, cities here in the United States, going without pay. And at this moment, you would think the president would want to bring people together and kind of broker a deal that not only is for our country, but I think asserts U.S. leadership on the world stage. And you just continue to see them to fail at that. So it's really disappointing and concerning, certainly, whether it be from Argentina to, catering to Russian talking points. It's all something that's, going to have far-reaching consequences in the future.
Let's tie it all together before we go. Because, I give these examples of, I think, the destruction of America's role as, frankly, the leader of the world. I mean, when Marco Rubio became Secretary of State, he talked about America should no longer be the leader. He talked about multipolarity, where America's just one pole, and then China's a pole, and Russia's a pole, and Europe's a pole, which is the weird way, it's a very strange way to frame things. But it almost seems that, Donald Trump's out there, we're the greatest, we're the toughest, we're the whatever. It looks like we're clearly in this multipolar world, in the language of the way Russia used to talk about it, like already there in 9 months. And it also is beginning to feel that with all of the shifting kind of world order, China's asserting itself more and more as the leader in this multipolarity, and America's pulling back as this weirdo Kim Jong-un-like country that is just strange. And yes, it has this legacy post-World War I and World War II of doing great things internationally, but it's like, we can't do that. The Danish were like, we're not sharing our intelligence with you no more. And that's like, to me, all these intelligence services, who's giving us their intelligence right now? So maybe speak to more broadly where we are before we go.
Yeah, I think, it's unfortunate when the United States pulls back its leadership on the world stage. Because one, by leaving such a vacuum or such a void, you're going to have other countries that are going to try and fill it. And they're not going to be countries that are necessarily in the United States or our allies' interests. And like you said, China is taking much more of a prominent role economically, and of course, militarily. They are really building up. So this idea that the United States is going to isolate and just let, sort of the balance of power shift, I don't actually know how that's in the interest of Americans here at home, but also abroad, because I think what makes America great is that we are the beacon of leadership and that we can stand strong and defend our allies and partners, but also go up against our adversaries. And so when you don't have that, and there's clearly not an interest from Donald Trump or his cabinet, I think just to take it a step back, the only place that the United States has deployed troops under this administration has been in cities within our own country, cities that are not asking for the support of our National Guard right now. And so, I don't know what the future holds. Of course, we're going to have elections. There's going to be change of power, hopefully, and you're going to see some accountability being brought to this administration. But right now, us pulling away from the world stage, I think will actually do us more harm than it will do us good in the future.
Great to see you, Sabrina Singh, everybody, former spokesperson for the Department of Defense. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Ben.
Everybody hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million subscribers.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.